Okay, Final Fantasy VIII. Well, one could go on about this forever, but I'll try to get onto some of the points that I probably already alluded to. Yes, I did in the Final Fantasy VII. Particularly the fandom, and particularly all the number of critiques against it, and that despite being supposedly the most hated Final Fantasy in existence, it's actually supposedly sold remarkably well. I mean, the only one that's probably sold more than it was probably either Final Fantasy VII or maybe Final Fantasy XII, but I really can't be certain about that until I look at numbers. But, probably Final Fantasy VIII is never going to get to Final Fantasy VII's level, but it's going to be either right even to it, or it's going to be right below it in popularity. Because you are probably never going to be able to go to a convention without seeing chicks dressed as Squall, or guys dressed as Squall. Possibly effeminate guys. I'm not going to make any jokes about that. But take for example some of the people on YouTube. Although I'm not sure about Cloud8745. The fact that he has 8 before his name makes me think, yeah, he probably actually likes Final Fantasy VIII a lot, and I can't blame him. It actually is pretty compelling and interesting. But of course, there are strong critiques. Not to mention Spoony1, who I think is still doing this review of it, but he's probably stopped at disc 1 because he just hated it so badly, and I can't blame him. It's very difficult to get through that game because of the sheer fact that there are a few things that would frustrate your ability to actually consistently enjoy it every time you turn on your system. One of them is the draw magic system, which admittedly can be reduced in frustration by just drawing at certain times in the game, taking your time, and then going around and training otherwise, because you don't really need to draw the magic to actually use it, because you can do runs where you just use your weapons, you just train a lot, those sorts of things. But if we go on to the other issues like the Guardian Force junctioning, it's just called junctioning, yes, where it'll actually enable you to do things like use the card ability, or even just use the item ability, use save points, I believe, even. I mean, it becomes very, very frustrating, although I'm not certain about the save point thing, but that's probably an Ultimisius Castle near the end of the game, where you actually have to fight a boss in order to get the ability to use a goddamn save point. It's terrible, but it's the end game, so why not? But of course, the other critiques lay in the characters. The character development is, well, probably very important because of the fact that it's a uniquely and solely human cast this time around. There's not really much non-human cast in this in Final Fantasy VIII as opposed to Final Fantasy VII, where, yeah, 2 of the characters were very much animals or robotic, and then there's Vincent, so enough said. But then we have Final Fantasy VIII, where we have a guy with a furry jacket, a chick with a blue dress, a chick with a pink dress, kind of chick with a yellow dress, guy with a cowboy hat, guy with a ducktail hairdo or a Sonic the Hedgehog ripoff thing with face tattoos, and I think, yeah, a crazy bitchy chick with a kind of headdress thing going on, like she's from, I don't know, I have no fucking clue, like she came out of the Middle Ages or something. I think that's all the playable characters. Oh, never mind, we have the guy who uses a machine gun, we have a guy who uses these punching blades who looks like he's straight out of Ethiopia or something. I don't even know if that joke's very funny, it's kind of more just racist. Fair enough. And we have the big guy with a harpoon who, I think he has one eye. But enough said. It's a solely human cast of playable characters, and the interactions with non-human characters are usually just solely comic relief. I mean, there's Moombas that are in there that I believe they save you from prison. Moombas in prison rape. Anyway, then we have I believe, no, they're not the Ku. The Ku are in 9. We'll get to that, I guess, in the next one if I go on to 9. Maybe not. I'll probably do 9, but if I'm knowing me, I'll probably have to do that in 2 parts because I could probably talk long enough about it. But I could talk long enough about this actually, and then just talk about Final Fantasy 9 in one video. But either way, I'll probably just, doesn't matter. On to the other interesting points in Final Fantasy VIII. The chocobos. I mean, there were chocobos in 7. I could talk about that for a little bit. You could race them, you could breed them, you could get the famous gold chocobo, which, I do not want to do. If I want to get a gold chocobo, I want to probably train my Ultima Materia and all that shit, and then just beat Ruby Weapon that way, because I believe that's how you get a gold chocobo, and that's all I really want is a gold chocobo. I don't even want the Master Materia that badly. Although, it couldn't hurt. Anyway, in 8, you can ride them, like in 9 and 10. You can't really ever breed chocobos again until maybe 11, but I'm not certain. 11's going to be way in the future if I'm doing a rant or rambling on that. But at least you'll get to see these two, and at least I'm doing it in less than a period of time of a week or 2, which is how long it took me to get the last 2 up, which were just ramblings about job system. This time it's 7 and 8. And then 9, 10, 10-2, I might stop there actually, which leaves me with only 3 more, which is a problem. But I also have other ideas for ramblings on my list, particularly female characters in Final Fantasy and feminine characters, which would actually include a lot of characters I'm not too familiar with, like Kefka, although Cloud8745 would probably debate me strongly on that, because he's probably played Final Fantasy 3 enough that he could argue that Kefka's not a girly man, as opposed to, say, Kuja, which is almost unquestionably so. The guy dresses bearing his midriff, and he has a feather in his hat, a feather in his hair, and, you know, you could really mistake the guy for a chick, and it actually has happened. I did a poll, and Kuja was one of the guys that I was showing pictures of, 2 chicks around high school. Yes, I was a terrible nerd and a polling geek to boot, and I was showing them the pictures, and I think 9 times out of 10, if not more, that was what they were saying. Is this a chick? Or the reverse of that? That's a guy? No way. But anyway, on to a little more about it. Particularly the summons. It makes me wonder about summons in general in Final Fantasy, because again, they're not very consistent, and the only things that stay consistent are usually that they either limit the summons to mostly elemental, then a few special effect and non-elemental like Bahamut, or they expand the summons to everything out the wazoo like they did in 8. In 8 you have one particular summon which I don't remember ever really using in battles, and that's Cerberus, who casts this spell called, or this effect, whatever you want to call it, called Triple, on your characters, and they can cast 3 spells at once, which can be useful. But at the same time, I can't imagine it being very useful in the long run. We also have Doom Train, kind of like Hades from Final Fantasy VII, inflicts, in this case I believe it just inflicts poison damage, and inflicts a lot of other stats effects. But it's a train. Then we have Tomberry, which I don't even remember. I believe you have the Cactuar. I mean, yeah, there's a theme there with a lot of the games that actually have summons that are very, very random, and they always tend to include Cactuar, Tomberry, even bombs, and some of the older ones. I believe Final Fantasy IV had bombs, goblins. It was Katobopas, the one who can, or was it Cockatrice? I don't remember. The creatures that can stone you are variant. What else we got? The gravity summons are relatively rare, as I recall. There wasn't one in 7. There was one in 8, of course. Scared the living crap out of people. And then there was the one in 9, the big giant, I have a huge mouth. Anyway, I'm running low on time here, as I shouldn't have been surprised that I ran out of time on Final Fantasy VIII. Now, the last thing I would probably talk about is the music, at least the opening sequence that confuses the hell out of people. And I can understand, because usually Final Fantasies are not known for having very complex opera orchestral shit that, well, especially that involves vocals. Not vocals that sound like, as one guy said, Carmina Burana music, so. But yeah, that's another thing that would make Final Fantasy VIII stand out. And my final conclusion, if I had to rate this one, it'd probably be on the bottom of the list consistently, mostly because of the junction and the draws things. So anyway, I'm gonna cut this off before I get to 10 minutes, because I don't want you to be bitching at me, even though I know I could go to 10:59. Anyway, see you later.